fix it when we do.
Hey guys, welcome to Jerry's Facebook Live and Jerry's YouTube Live. We were having some technical difficulties and we apologize. We've got a whole new system that we were ready to debut today that would be better sound, that would be better quality, and then it backfired on us. So we've gone back today just to filming like this. We're going to do even more extensive testing and have it up and working for us hopefully next time, and that should be a fantastic improvement. So we apologize for the slight delay, but we are here and we're ready to go. We've got JL71 for you to follow on the website if you want to look at the items that we're going to be talking about today. You just type JL71 in the search box. That brings up the show, which is Overwhelming Sketchbook Options. If you've ever tried to find the perfect sketchbook, and if you're like me, or Amanda has a ton of sketchbooks, or did until she purged. You tend to buy sketchbooks. It just looks nice. You like the cover of this one. The paper seems really cool. This one, oh, that's a really cool, unique little size. And then you get it home and you mess with it a little bit. It just kind of wasn't everything that you. Whether maybe it's shrink wrapped, you can't take a look at it. Whether you're trying to order online, it's all very mysterious and sometimes very difficult to really make a great educated decision. I will say that on our website, we've got a lot of really good descriptions, and there's usually technical notes, the little kind of yellow box over by what the price is on the line item that sometimes you can click on, and it gives you further information about it. There's always also the read more button on the website that if you click on that kind of in the description, that will give you kind of open up the window and give you even more information, especially if there's multiple styles on a page. So use that information to help you make better buying decisions. But I think today, hopefully we can narrow some of those things down, and we're going to first talk about some of the things you really want to think about and consider before you make that purchase. And then what we've done is we've got a number of different brands. This is a small drop in the ocean of sketchbooks that are out there and available on our website. But you got to start somewhere, and we can't show all of them. So I've gathered types that kind of suit different purposes. Now, people are going to be like, but what about this? But what about that? We're talking about different styles for this. And to me, sketchbooks are something that have a binding. It's not like a taped pad or a glued pad, whether it's on the side or on the top. That's paper that's just bound in some way, shape, or form to be able to take out singly. Sketchbooks are things where the paper is in there. It may be bound with a hard binding like some of these. It may be wire bound just so that it can open up and lie flat. You can take things out, but for the most part, it's more of what would be considered kind of a book. There are some that I let slide with like the top bound, wire bound sketch pads, but it still kind of fits closely into that sketchbook option. So we'll just look at these examples to kind of help guide you, and hopefully it'll make you a more educated buyer, okay? The first thing I want you to think about when you're going to purchase your sketchbook is size. I know that seems stupid because you kind of just assume, but how big is too big? How big is too small? Everybody kind of knows what that 8 by 10, 8 by 8.5 by 11 inch piece of paper that comes out of your printer is. But you want to make sure when you're looking at descriptions, is that piece of paper, especially if it's micro perforated, which means it's got kind of a little tear tab that you can pull the paper out to have it, which some of these actually do have. Is that the actual size that it's quoting? If they're quoting an 11 by 14 inch sketchbook and it's micro perforated, but that isn't a true 11 by 14 inch piece of paper, you're not going to be able to put it in an 11 by 14 inch mat because it's actually smaller. So that's something that you want to think about. Something that's small may sound great. Maybe you've always been taught to work in these large, really gestural shapes, and then all of a sudden, you're getting something this size for the first time. Maybe you want to consider something more in between. Bigger is always better. Yes, granted, you can put more sketches in there and you can do multiple sketches on a page, But are you wanting to transport this and take it, with you on trips, or take it to the doctor's office to sketch, or go sit in your local park? There gets to be a point where bigger is not better. It's not as transportable. It's more likely to get damaged getting banged around if you can't put it in maybe a backpack or a purse or something like that. So you need to consider that. A good kind of average size is always 9 by 12. It's a little bit bigger than a regular sheet, but not so big where it's unwieldy for taking with you. Weight is a subcategory of this. We're going to talk about one sketchbook at the end that's just gargantuan. It's like a coffee table book. That obviously, you need to consider that weight when you're looking at purchasing it. Something that's really large and really heavy, if you want to take your sketchbook places, is unlikely to not be used. The cover. Cover is always something to consider. How rough are you? Well, Katie knows that I can destroy literally anything, and she looks at me and nods like, yes. I don't ever have sketchbooks like some of these that have just the paper cover. That would last all of maybe 3 times that I used it, and half of that would be torn off and gone somewhere. Okay, more than half. Then you start losing the first couple drawings in there. So I've actually in school remedied that by taking other thin cardboard, gluing it to the back, wrapping it around, and then putting a rubber band around it because I lost the cover so quickly. So, hey, ingenuity fixes things, Amanda, and it was still usable, but still, you want to think about that ahead of time because that looks, not the best, and get something that's more durable if you know you're rough on things. If you're going to be carrying it in a bag with a lot of items, obviously that's not the cover for you. If you're going to put it in a pocket, is that style going to stand up to being, slid in and out, rubbing on the corners and things like that? Some of these sketchbooks are actually angled, have rounded corners for that. So we'll talk about that in a little bit. The binding of the book. How hard or soft of a binding do you prefer? The binding is going to be that part in the middle. What is holding your sketchbook together? Obviously, if you are going to be using it on a table somewhere, it's not as big of a deal. You don't have to have a hardbound. If you're, sitting on a little stool at a bird sanctuary, you need something with a hard back that you can open up that will be supported so that when you draw, it's not going to bend and flex repeatedly. Do you want to use both of the pages together in your sketchbook? Some of these styles don't open and lay flat, regardless of where you are. So if you're wanting to do it where you can open it up and use both pages in the same artwork, that's something you need to consider, is what that binding is and will it allow for that. Then you need to look at the paper. And I know that sounds, people like paper is paper is paper, right? It's a sketchbook. Maybe back in the day that was more predominant. Nowadays there is something with a paperweight for everybody, a paper color if you're you have a preference for that. If is the paper perforated or not, white or cream or an ivory. Some people, ivory means something to some people. Ivory means kind of an off-white, don't you think, Amanda?
Yeah.
Okay, cream could be just a little yellowish to really yellowish, okay? So different colors are going to lend more towards different mediums. White, you can do about anything in it. Cream starts to look kind of dirty with some mediums. Cream, I always think of like, I never liked cream sketchbooks just because they're so yellow. Then one day I was out sketching with a friend, and they were using sepia inks and doing this beautiful watercolor work in their sketchbook. That with that cream paper was dynamite, because here's kind of a nice brown, kind of nut brown colored ink, and then this beautiful cream paper. I was like, now I want to do that. Now I would like a cream sketchbook. So that's something to consider. Toned paper. We're going to show you some different tone varieties of sketchbooks where they've got gray or tan. That's something that may appeal to you. There may be types of sketching that you've thought of that you don't do that often, that you would do a lot more of if you had a sketchbook like that. Is the paper perforated or not? Obviously, with the wire bound, you can just tear them off and then cut the edges. It's messy, but it does work. If you don't care about that, that's not that big of a deal. The worst thing I've ever done is had a beautiful sketch in a hardbound sketchbook, which is sewn in, and then I wanted to use it for something and then cut it out with an X-Acto knife. So my sketchbook had this horrible incision thing, and then when I pulled it out, it did not even fit in the mat that it needed to fit into. So consider that if you know that when you draw things in sketchbooks, sometimes you want to keep things, sometimes you want to take things out and frame them, sometimes it's sellable quality. This might not be the sketchbook for you. Just saying. What type of paper is it? Again, that seems strange. Is it recycled? Is it toned? Is it paper pulp? Is it cotton? That matters if you're going to use those final works. You want, and you know, your, what was it, full-on archival that Sam always says? Yeah. Yeah, that's, then cotton is maybe what you want. And some of the sketchbooks that we have actually are cotton paper. So it's going to be more like a watercolor paper, more, you know, final work quality. Texture. When people say smooth or people say fine, that's going to mean the smoother. Then they say medium tooth. Tooth just means whether it's got that little bit of grab to it. That doesn't mean that it's a cold pressed watercolor paper. But if it's got a medium or rougher tooth, then it's going to have a little bit of grit and grab. Maybe it will be better for colored pencil if you're wanting to layer things. Bristol can be smooth plate, you know, or it can be a medium texture. Just if they say average Bristol or average vellum, that just means it's a medium texture. So that's something that needs to be considered as well when you're looking at some of these sketchbooks and some of the descriptions of them. That's what that means. Read into it, because you might be, if you're on a page like one of the Strathmore pages or one of the Stillman and Byrne pages, and it's got all those different varieties, and you don't read really carefully which one you're picking up, you may get a paper texture that's not what you really wanted. The orientation. Is it landscape? Is it portrait? You know, landscape could be this way. Then portraits, obviously, you're upright. Square. There's a lot of times where that can actually come in handy. So think about what types of works you do. If it tends to lend itself more one to the other, you can always go that route. A portrait, some portrait ones, you can turn sideways and suddenly it's a landscape setting. You don't have to go all the way up to the spine, or vice versa with the landscape. So that's something to consider as well. Also with that, decide kind of where that binding is. Is that going to be in the way for what you're wanting to use it for? Sometimes if it is, go up the next size just to kind of accommodate for that so that it's not too close in that seam. All right, so now that we've considered all those things and they're rattling around in your head and that's just becoming even more confusing, let's just kind of drop all that and just take a look at some of these sketchbooks. See what's going to really kind of be more optimal for you. So what we'll look at first are the wire-bound sketchbooks. Now, wire-bound sketchbooks, like we talked, are great because you can rip those pages out if you want them. They're handy in that when you open them up, they do lie flat. If you wanted to do an artwork where it goes across from one to the other, it does that to a point, but then you've got all those little kind of nitty-gritty pieces that are in the middle that either you're trying to draw through them or paint through them that don't work very well. So that's something to consider if that's the type of thing you want to do. This style may or may not be for you, so take that into consideration. Also, if you know you're really, really rough on sketchbooks, some of these you want to look for what's called a double wire, which is this, where it's got 2 wires on each of those seams instead of the old-fashioned single wire, which I don't even think that many of them are built like that. I don't even see any that are single wire. I know we have some of them, but consider, you know, that cramming this into a bag over time can really dent these up and ding them up, and sometimes even start popping the, you know, back binding off or the pages off of kind of the little clasp, as it were, in the back. So if you're super duper rough like me, maybe this isn't the best alternative for you, but that would have to be, you know, your discretion. You know you. All right, the Reflections wire-bound sketchbooks are a great kind of a price point for easing into a hardbound sketchbook. They've got 70-pound paper with 80 sheets in here, so it's 80 pieces of actually pretty decent paper considering. Well, do you remember what just regular printer paper is, Katie, pound-wise? I want to say it's like somewhere in the neighborhood of.
That was one of those questions I could have answered if you hadn't asked it.
Yeah. Sorry about that. Put you on the spot. Because this hasn't been enough stress with all the other stuff. Yeah. The bond paper and stuff like that. Do you know, Frida?
20 pounds.
Whoa! Ding, ding, ding. Frida is on the stick today. She's madly typing away over there. Thank you, Frida. So you're talking quite a bit more substantial than just that regular typing paper. They've got a light cream color for the Reflections books. They are micro perforated so that if you do want to pull this out of here, you can tear it out and get all the little nubbies, but then it's also got that little seam that leaves a nice, neat, clean edge without you having to try to scissor it at a poor angle because you're trying to cut very carefully and not doing a very good job. So that micro perforation is a really nice little. I'm always so. I have this phobia against the little things. The little crunchy pieces, because they get everywhere. Okay, so the micro perforation, you can fold that right there if you want. I mean, you don't want to leave that in the book, but you can tear it, and then you don't have to have the little creepy thing in there. So that makes it nice and easy. You can use that as your final piece of artwork then on an actually, a decent thickness paper. That's great for sketching. The double wire bound, so it's the stronger than just the single. Hardboard covers, so that it's got a slight bit of flex, but you've got to push it, Great for dry media or even for like pen and ink, not like ink washes, but if you're doing dip pens, if you're doing technical pens, if you're doing kind of the disposable technical pens, those would be fantastic. Now this is 11 by 14, so you've got a nice thick size that's still somewhat portable. If you carry like a messenger bag or something, or a large purse like Katie has that you can fit.
My Mary Poppins bag.
Yes, it is. Things come out of that umbrellas and.
It's very convenient.
Yeah, full-size ballroom gowns, things like that.
Small children.
Yeah. So that's a great, and they've got tons of sizes, tons of shapes. It's a great basic sketchbook for a value price, but a nice, decent sketchbook that you can take anywhere easily. So those are the Reflections wire-bound. They do have hardbound. We'll look at those in a few minutes when we get to that. Now, I included this, even though it's actually got a cardstock cover, so it's more durable. And I will say that my son has had these, and he's not lost the covers to them yet. He's somewhat less destructive than I am, Amanda. This is the Union Square smooth drawing pads. Now, do not let the labeling on the website of them being discontinued and on closeout fool you, because the reason for that is a horrible, sad story in that the vendor who makes these for us got bought out by somebody else and they're not making paper anymore. So we have these beautiful sketchbooks with this just lovely velvety smooth drawing paper that it's 50 sheets, 80 pounds. So you're going up 10 pounds in weight, and then we're not going to have them anymore. So they're on a great clearance. So if you want to pick up really nice, very smooth sketch paper, in a sketchbook at a great price, this is a fantastic deal. It's a clean white color. It's got a 1.75 point cardboard back, so you can set it on your lap doing something and draw, and it's not going to bend and flex a whole lot. The double spiral, so it's actually very durable for it being a smaller spiral. Dry media, markers, thinned paint, that 80 pounds is a lot more durable to take a little bit of moisture that something like a 70 pound wouldn't do very well with, would do a lot of buckling. So that's the Union Square smooth drawing pads. They've got those on the website until they're sold out. So if you're looking for a really good quality drawing pad that'd be a lot more, they're a fantastic deal. And I like those so much that when my son went to college, I sent him with a bunch of those for medical illustration because they produce really nice, crisp drawings, but you can do a lot of erasing. They're very forgiving without it damaging that paper. So, all right. So Strathmore has got a number of different wire-bound sketch pads that we're going to look at here. Let's see. Let me get the right size so I know what we're doing here. Now, they've got different series. If you've ever seen the thing, you know, I just realized I have my phone here. I was like, I don't know why that's sticking out. Sorry. And I'm gonna mute it so that it doesn't go off. All right. Put that in there while we were doing our dinking around with the microphone. 300, 400, 500. What does it mean? It's not very easily spelled out. You really have to do a lot of reading to find it out. So I'm just gonna go ahead and tell you. The 300 on the Strathmore are more their classroom studies, their practice, it'd be great paper for like high schoolers and middle schoolers, or for somebody that just wants decent paper to just do a lot of practice drawings on. It's 50-pound paper, so significantly lighter than the Reflections, but it is 100 sheets, so it's a lot of good practice. They're micro-perforated on their sketch pads. You can always tell this little line here. They've got it on a lot of their different pads. Anytime you see that line, that's an indicator that it's micro-perforated. And it's actually, they say, to the actual size of what the sketchbook is. So this is a 9x12, so you know that's exactly a 9x12 where that micro-perforation falls. It's got a very light tooth to it, so just a little bit of grab, but not enough to really do a whole lot of layering and things like that for stuff like colored pencil. It's ideal for dry media, so a really good pad for pencil and, you know, things like that. Charcoal is what the 300 is for. So then when it goes up to 400, you are going up to their artist grade sketchbooks and products. With the 400, they have it in every single way, shape, form, and variation that you could think of. When you're looking at these and you see the green covers on them, that is a recycled pad. With their recycled pad, I believe that they are over 50% recycled materials. So if you're really, you know, earth conscious, working on that footprint, Amanda? Are you working on that footprint for all the paper that you purchase otherwise? Yeah. This is what Amanda should be using to offset her giant galoshes of carbon footprint. I'm just teasing you, Amanda. The recycled sketch pads would be the way to go. Then they've got just their regular drawing. They've got heavyweight. So let's talk about a few of these kind of to start with. The sketch. Sketch basically is always going to mean their lightest weight paper that they've got. Sketch in all of these different variations, anytime it says sketch, that means it's their 60-pound paper and it's got a fine tooth to it. Okay, so spiral bound, it's got the micro perforations. It's ideal for dry media. Just because that weight is 60 pound, it's not going to take as much scrubbing and scratching and all that. So that's why it's called sketch, because sketching is what you're doing, a lot more drawing, less erasing.
Real fast and loose.
Fast, loose practice, blocking things in. But that's why it's a lighter paper. It's your heavier papers that you've got that ability to kind of do more erasing and correction and things like that on. So that's the sketch. Then they do a recycled sketch version of it that I don't think we picked up. Then they do a heavyweight version of that. Heavyweight is always going to be the brown pads that they've got. The heavyweight has less paper because it's 100 pounds. They've got 24 sheets. It is a cream color for their heavyweight, which if you're not as big on cream can be a make or break for getting it. But the 100 pound is that heavier weight, and it's got more tooth, so it would be great for like when you're doing color layering, colored pencils, things like that. Dry medium markers, washes, pastels, mixed media can go on this. Pretty much anything above 90 pounds and up, you can start using light washes. You can start using some mixed media and things like that in there. So that is their heavyweight pad. Then they've got the drawing. Let's see. Drawing one got moved behind the tone. So let's. All right. So this is actually a recycled drawing. The recycled drawing uses 30% of post-consumer fiber. The drawing is 80 pounds, so it's heavier than the sketching. It's got some texture to it, much more than the regular sketching. So it's going to be able to stand up to scrubbing with an eraser. It's got a nice medium surface, micro perforation, but again, it being that next heavier weight paper, you're going to have less paper because of that. So it's going to be the 25 pages of a pad. Then they've got the toned tan and the toned gray. These are really nice. These are actually recycled. I think they only do the toned in the recycled stuff, so it's got that 30%, but they put in some just lovely, here's the tan. So they put in some craft fibers in that. So it's a nice tan, similar to that kind of the Stonehenge craft paper that we really like, right, Katie? That's cotton. So this is the cost alternative to that cotton paper that's a lot more expensive. Then this gray has some, let's see, they said craft and bark fiber inclusions in it to give it that color. So it's a natural dye. It's not, you know, they're not dyeing it with icky yucky stuff. So, oh yeah, very pretty. Both of these have the 24 sheets. I think it's above 12 by 24, or excuse me, above 11 by 14 have 24 sheets. The sizes under that have 50 sheets. That's an 80-pound surface. So it's going to be able to be kind of pressed on heavier duty. Perfect for using maybe some black and white charcoal, some black and white oil pencil like the Jerry's Jumbo Jets that we all like. Dry media, you could use some really light washes maybe if you wanted to do some ink gradations. Yes.
Frida has an example of the blue one that you have in now.
Do you? Go grab it. That would be perfect. Yes, because we didn't have them
when we were ordering.
yet when we were ordering. They also make, it's almost like kind of a denim blue, isn't it? Like a really faded denim blue that they've come out with. That's just gorgeous. Leave it to Frida, who've already gotten the... Right. She loves her drawing paper. So, all right. And then this one was just adorable. This is just is that not the cutest size?
It's precious.
It is. I might be able to have something like this without destroying it because it's, Amanda's like, no, it's small enough.
That's wishful thinking.
It's small enough, maybe. All right. Well, are there any questions while Frida's doing that?
I'll just do it all.
Just, yeah, it's a lot of paper. It's a lot of really cool paper. All right. Well, while she's doing that, oh, she's locked out. Poor Frida. She's trying to be so helpful, and then she's locked out. All right. They've got great visual art journals, too, that they do. Now, with all these things, anytime they add journal to it, they add what I would refer to as bomb-proof to it. Oh. That was quick, Frida. She ran in heels.
She's huffing.
Frida's always wearing heels, and she, like, took off through the building in heels. I'm so impressed. Ooh, look at that. It's like kind of a denim gray blue. Let's look at it compared to that toned gray. That's the cardboard backing up. Okay. Oh, wow. So it's, okay, so this is really, even though it says blue, this is a very cold light gray, and then that's a much warmer blue. Kind of just, whoo. Look at those together, Katie. It's very pretty. That's nice. I like that.
Oh, so it's barely blue.
Yes. Very nice.
It's like a gray blue.
Yes. It is. It's like a very cold gray.
It's hard to tell. I've seen pictures of it online.
Or
Some of
very,
it look really
very
blue.
warm. No, cool. Oh, look at that. Frida's been using her sketchbook for sketching. I'm so
Imagine
proud of
that.
her.
What? We love you, Frida. Frida's just like, oh my god, I should never have done that. And now my feet hurt from hoofing it in heels.
Hey, what did you say they add with journal labeling?
Journal labeling
Oh, hard.
means that it's a super hard, all the Strathmore journals. When it says journal, it's these super, super hard
That's
front
the
and
one I
back.
use.
It's got this paper on it, which is always kind of, people are like, oh, that's just that paper cover like those. That's the one thing about those I really don't like. It's that really thin, kind of more like a slightly heavier piece of paper. There's this on the front, but it's just covering this nice hardbound front and back.
Except for it's brown.
You know what? You can take some gel medium and stick whatever you want to it, Amanda.
That's what I use for my watercolor sketchbook.
Yes, well, there you go. So, this has drawing paper, but wait, the journal drawing paper is 100-pound paper. And it's this beautiful white. So, that's really nice. And it's got a nice medium tooth to it. It's heavyweight. 42 sheets of paper in this little journal. So that's very nice. Wire bound, so you can open it up and lie flat. So you can do journaling on both sides. And luckily this wire is actually pretty small. They're not as big as some of the other hardbound journals that we've looked at. So it gives you a little bit more room if you want to do side-to-side journaling or drawing, whatever. Because of that 100-pound weight, dry and light wet media, mixed media, even collage. Collage your cover, Amanda. It'll be okay.
It'll be a project for both of us.
Yes, for both of us. Yes, me making you actually do it. And then you doing it. That's the project. All right. Now, Stillman and Byrne. Stillman and Byrne is a new line we picked up, I guess, within, what, the last year, probably, guys? Don't you think?
Year and a half,
Stillman and
something
Byrne?
like that.
It's been, yeah, I guess it may have been 2 years. It's kind of flown by.
Yeah.
But they're really fantastic. They have this really cool thing that goes through all of the different sketchbooks that they've got. Their mixed media books, their wire bound, even their soft bound. It's the same paper in all of them, but they do it by lettering it as parts of the Greek alphabet. So you've got an alpha, you've got beta, you've got gamma, you've got epsilon, you've got zeta, even a zeta. Each of those papers means something different. With some of them, it may be the same weight, it's just the difference between white and a cream color. With some of them, the paper weight goes way up. So we're gonna look at just a few I've kind of picked here and there with some of the wire to the hard to the soft cover ones, and then we'll kind of look at each of those papers. Now this one is, let's grab the alpha, and I love their landscapes sizes. That's just very nice. Nice, pretty paper. This is alpha. It is a heavyweight 150 gram paper, which equals 100 pounds. So it's a decent weight, like that journal that we were just looking at by Strathmore. It's a medium grain, so it's got some texture, so you can do some layering with it. It's ideal for dry media, light washes, even ink. So you could do some ink sketches with watercolor over it, and this would handle it fairly well. It might buckle a little bit, but with the hardcover, you push it down, it flattens down over time, you're good to go. So that's their alpha. All right, the Zeta is a cute little square, and they make all sorts of different shapes and sizes. So they just, one thing they don't do is they don't get into really big sketchbooks. They're all portable sketchbooks, journals, and all that stuff. They don't, I think it might be 9 by 12, maybe at the most, and not all of them have that either. I don't think the soft cover get much larger than some of those. The Zeta, it's got extra heavyweight paper. So while this looks similar out there in viewer land, I'm sorry, there's with the whiteness of paper, there's no way to get with this type of filming get in on the texture. The 100 or 270 gram paper actually equates to 180 pounds. So it's you know, if you do watercolor, you know what 140 pound watercolor paper is. This is heavier than that. The Zeta is extremely smooth, very, very smooth. So it would be beautiful for doing some wet media stuff with some ink, things where you want to explore that nice smooth texture. I think I think it'd be perfect for inks. Every time I open this up, I'm like, oh, I need some ink on it. It's just very nice. Even mixed media, you could do some, gluing and adhering of different things in there. So the Zeta is that heavier weight, but a very, very smooth surface and a very pretty white paper. Now, the Beta is this one, has the heavy weight of that 180-pound paper, the same as the Zeta, but it's got a cold press texture just like watercolor paper. So you can feel that texture. It's going to absorb and be a lot more kind of quick to suck in that wet media versus the very smooth Zeta. So this would be great for doing watercolor and washes, and it would be great for inks too, but even like fluid acrylics would be great with the Beta variety. So those are just a sampling of some of the Stillman and Byrne wire-bound sketchbooks. So yes, Amanda.
Kathy on YouTube made a good point that the smoother one would be really good for like dip-in calligraphy with your inks, because it wouldn't catch so much as the cold press one.
Yes, definitely so. Even technical pens where you've got those steel nibs, those can really catch on either like a cold press paper or a really rough press paper, and you'll actually pull little fibers up. I once did a drawing, somebody wanted a commission drawing on a really rough press watercolor paper with technical pens and then watercolor over it, and I would go dip, dip, and have to go boop every 3 strokes, pull off little pieces of fiber. Oh, it was maddening. Never again would I do that. It was crazy. All right, any questions about wire-bound sketchbooks, ladies, before we go on to, we're going to take a break and go to some of the luxurious leather and soft-bound sketchbooks. Are we ready for luxury? Are we? Yes.
Just a quick note. I know some people are trying to comment, but for some reason they're sending over messages, like email, instead of commenting. So just a reminder to everybody to make sure they put it in the comment box.
Okay.
Not send emails, because the emails aren't monitored right now.
Are they emails, or are they like a instant message kind of a thing?
They're sending over into like our inbox. Like I'm getting notified like we're getting
Okay,
emails.
so they're basically doing like a
Yeah.
messenger.
It's It's basically, I guess, like they're clicking message instead of comment. So they just need to comment with their questions instead of.
Okay, definitely. You
Otherwise,
guys.
we might miss
Yes. Yeah, definitely.
We are ready for luxury.
All right.
On YouTube world.
Yes, all right. Well, YouTube, this is for you. Stillman and Byrne, we're going to start with them first. They make these soft-bound sketchbooks, but the cover feels just like, doesn't it, Frida?
Like butter.
It feels like butter.
I literally just did that on YouTube.
It's a rugged cover, but it is soft, and it's got these rounded edges. So the little ones, if you're going to put them, these are the little ones that we have, aren't they, Frida? Where we put them in the leather covers to take in our little pocket sketchbooks. Even if you didn't have the leather cover for that, this is rounded, so it's not going to get torn up and dinged and dented to actually slide in your pocket, because it's hard enough where it could actually manage that. They have different colors. I think there's, and it's based on the Greek alphabet, I guess, construct that they've come up with as to which paper is which. But you've got each of those colors. You kind of, once you buy into the Stillman and Byrne, which we've done, haven't we, Frida?
We have.
Then you know which color is which just right off the top of your head. There's 3 portrait and 2 landscape sizes in these. I think this is the most limited of the Stillman and Byrne, are these soft covers as far as the size offerings that they have. Now, the Epsilon is one we haven't looked at yet. It's got a heavyweight paper that's 100 pounds, that's 150 grams, that's very smooth, that's that white color, dry media, light washes, and ink in this beautiful book. Now, these are actually hand sewn, but the way they've hand sewn it, it's designed to lay more flat. So you could actually have the book out. This would be a fantastic sketchbook to be working on both sides because of how that's sewn in. It's very rare that you get one that's bound, a soft bound, I guess, is the easiest way to do this, but where it's going to lay flat and enable you to work the entire page. both sides. So that's what's really nice about these. I really like that Epsilon. Again, for the lady that mentioned the inks, this would be great. This Zeta would be, or excuse me, the Epsilon would be great paper just like that Zeta was. The Beta, back to the Beta, extra heavyweight, 180 pound, white color, cold pressed. It's that same little, good for all the water medias and things like that. But then this little tiny soft bound, and the nice thing about that paper is so heavy duty that then with that soft bound cover, you can see, that's a nice durable little book for it being just a little sketchbook. It's very nice and heavy duty.
Also, you could tell them how it fits nicely into that thing.
Yes. And who makes the leather? Is it? Okay. I thought it was Global Arts.
I think it's the
At the first episode this year, if you can look up that and link that. The first episode this year, we did.
that is by Global Art.
Yeah. Okay. We did a really fun little kind of call to arms for the year, kind of get your creative juices flowing. And we talked about kind of rigging up a little pocket-sized sketchbook to be able to go. And I know that item is in that whole little kind of set that we came up with that, which is a little leather sketchbook that these small ones this size slide in, and then it's got elastic band that you can either put your brush on or a pencil or pen, and they work really fantastic for that. And I use the cold press paper. I don't know what paper you're using, Frida. What paper did you guys use on yours?
I'm a man.
No, but I was saying on hers. Then I looked at you when she didn't look up and asked
I'm
what
using the
you
green
used.
one.
Okay. Okay. That's probably the Zeta. Okay. Yeah. So we've been using those pretty regularly for that, and that item number is in that. They're going to put the link to that show, kind of how we've used those. Now this is the Alpha ivory paper, so it's slightly off. It's not much more than the white. So I mean that's a nominal ivory. It's not even a cream. I know.
You can barely even
It's
tell
it's
when
just
you
slightly,
write.
which is nice. The ivory paper has a medium grain to it, so it's nice. And this is 100 pound for the Alpha, so great for dry media, light washes, ink. So another one of those nice smooth ones. So that's the Stillman and Byrne. Their soft cover, answer to soft cover. Now this is where the real luxury lays.
I wish
And
I could touch these through the
And
screen.
yes, Amanda wishes there was
They are
touch
like
of
Donna.
vision or smell of vision, because it smells like horse
Yes.
saddles. Patty Sheldon. Horse saddles, if she's on there. I don't know if she is. But I opened it up and I was like, oh, it's at the stable.
She's here.
4 different styles, or excuse me, 4 different sizes. So these are all the little sizes that these come in. And there's one more size because this is a double of that. 7 different cover styles. So this is just a sampling of the 7 different cover styles. They're designed after traditional Renaissance sketchbooks. 120 gram paper, which equals 80 pound weight, which is actually really fantastic for these. They have leather wraps. This one's loosening up on the red one, so I'm going to open this up to show the paper. So it just keeps that closed when you're out and about. It's this very nice cream paper. It's acid free. 112 pages each, except for the little one. The little one, and then I don't think this is the little one. I think there's another one that's even smaller than this. Is 64 pages, so it's slightly smaller. But it's a very, very nice, very cream colored paper. You can put this in if you need to, keep a place while you're working. These would be great for notes. They'd be great for sketches. They'd be great for poetry. For Amanda snuggles these at night. She puts one on her pillow and does this to soothe herself to sleep. They're incredibly soft. But there's this. I'm going to put these out case so you can zoom in to see just the smoothness of that. That's the red leather. They can see the leaf.
Show them that leaf.
That's really pretty. And then I love these. There's this that's printed on both sides. And I think the red comes in some of these prints, not all of them. And then I love this. It looks like a little medieval book. See how it has like the back binding to it, and then it's got the little book. Isn't that pretty? Yes. Yeah, I know. And then there is one that comes over and wraps around that just comes in brown. That's a plain, smooth brown. I like that one too. That's kind of more like the kind of pouch type of book of letters that they would have had in medieval times. But so those are very luxurious. They smell beautiful. They are fun too. I like using ink in these. They're great. I've not tried washes because it's only 80 pounds. It would probably be fine if you did it really, really lightly. But as far as little ink sketches, they're very pretty. So those are the old world luxury Italian leather bound sketchbooks. Yes. You look.
I thought we had one with ink in it, but I don't know. There's so many sketchbooks.
Yeah.
Right now I don't know where anything is.
I'm not sure. I'll see if I can find mine at home and I can post something in the Jerry's Live group. So, because I know I've got one. All right. Now, Strathmore. They make those soft cover art journals. It feels actually very much like the Stillman and Burn. It's slightly thinner. Yeah, slightly thinner, but it still feels velvety like leather. The 400 series, the same as that first round. All those papers are going to be the same as what they had. The drawing, it's a nice 80-pound cream paper. So you've got your cream paper with that. It's actually very similar to the old world sketch, but without the leather. Then you've got recycled toned in the gray and the brown. They do them in these lovely little soft things. You can't escape the toned paper, Frida. There's no escaping. Look, they come in the soft bound ones too. You know what you're going to be getting next time. Wait till they come out with that blue one in it.
I have so many sketchbooks.
I know.
If I buy any more, my husband is going to divorce me.
Probably so. Then they do a sketch in it.
I have a whole bookshelf.
Yeah.
It's nothing but like blank sketches.
I think
and
all of us are guilty of that here. I've minimized mine. I minimized mine, but only because I sent a kid to college that needed paper. I was like, oh, well, here you go. Because then I can get the hardbound and the softbound. Because I don't like the just hardbound, so.
I'm real bad about the ones I really like too. Like those that sit on my shelf forever because I don't
Yeah.
mess them up.
Oh, I don't have that problem. Now, okay, so all these are the 400, right? So they're the good artist ones, right? But then they went and threw things with the softbound ones only on their head, and they do a 500. What does that mean? Frida, do you know what that means? What 500 means? Do you know what 500 means in the Strathmore
It means it's
numbering? It means it's 100% cotton. A softbound sketchbook that's 100% cotton paper.
That's across the board, right? Any other 500 series? Or
Any of their 500 series, if you're looking at Strathmore, anything that says 500 means it's 100% cotton. It's internally sized for wet media. It's archival. It's a durable vellum finish to it, so it's got a little bit of tooth. Dry media, watercolor, gouache, ink, pastel collage, mixed media use. 64 pages, and it's 90 pounds. So it's just thick enough to hold up to some nice washes and things like that. Yes.
Does it lay flat? when you open it?
That's a good question, Frida. Let's find out.
I don't need to know.
Why, Amanda? Because you'll need it
I
for
love a
lettering?
perfect bound.
Huh?
Oh, you're
Oh, my creasing the spine?
don't break the spine.
Oh no, when they're made to do that, like when I don't have to do that.
It's
number.
pretty good. You could use both sides. That's pretty good. And it doesn't crinkle it all up, Amanda, so your binding is safe with Strathmore 500. So that's yet another nice thing that you can do with that. And they've got those in different sizes as well. Now, hardbound sketchbooks. Hardbound sketchbooks for those of you and I who are very rough on everything. Sometimes this is the way to go. Other than you're losing that beauty of being able to open it up with most brands and have it lie flat, you're gaining the ability to keep your sketchbook from becoming toast. So Reflections. Reflections has hardbound sketchbooks. This is one that's on 11 by 14. This is the most adorable size, 5 by 11. How cute is that? It's just very unique.
You like the odd shaped ones.
I do. See, and then you open it up and you could do landscapes that way. And it's on that nice cream paper.
Otherwise, you could do
Yeah, oh no.
cool,
It would be really, yes, really cool figure sketches. It is that 70-pound paper, so you could do some mixed media that wasn't too heavy on it. So that's nice. 80 sheets in these. So that's nice because it's a lot of paper. And then you've got this elastic binding, so it's going to hold it closed if you've got it in a bag, so it's not going to be pulling open, things getting jammed in it. Ding. I snapped your sketchbook strap.
That's a big sketchbook.
That's a pretty sizable sketchbook. And look what they've got
Is it
for your
bigger
pencil or a
than very
brush.
big?
Huh?
Is it bigger than the very big and like
Bigger
flat
but not
size?
fatter.
Right.
It's slightly bigger.
Yeah.
Well, we'll get to that in a minute, Amanda. This would be good for Amanda to do all of her lettering in. All right, so Stillman and Byrne, they make some hardbound ones. It's paper like we've already looked at. We've got their mixed media one, which is the Epsilon that we've looked at. We've got the Delta, and then we've got the Gamma. So they even do a landscape, which that's the one thing that you don't see in a lot of these hardbound ones. They do the landscape like the Reflections, not like this where it opens up like that. Now these, I think, will lay close to flat. There we go. That's nice. So there's one that's giving you that ability, but I think it's in how they stitch. Wow, that's really nice. I think it's in how they stitch it. Let's see if it does it with these other ones. I just got a little sketchbook. Like, oh,
Flushed.
gonna need one of those. That will lie pretty flat too with that stitching.
Nice.
I think it's called Smith.
I was thinking
With
there's
the-
something, yeah.
SMYTH. It's a type of binding, style of binding where it's a lot more durable but allows the paper to lay flat. That's really, okay, so all these do lay flat. I take back what I said. That's on the Stillman and Byrne. So that's fantastic. All those papers that we've looked at. Then we've got Strathmore does this with, again, all those papers we just looked at. But you know what's good about that? You find the paper you want, and then you decide this. Okay, so the 400 recycled sketch toned tan sounds great to me. Which variation do I want? This is buying made easy, Amanda. So we've got the drawing, we've got the toned gray, we've got the toned tan, and we even have the mixed media with the heavier paper. That's the 500 series. So they make the cotton in the hardbound as well.
Is that like a rough hardbound or is that like the smooth velvety kind?
It's not, it's in between.
Okay.
It's a texture in between. It doesn't feel like leather, but it doesn't feel like that soft kind of velvety, almost faux suede. But it's not like that pebbly, more kind of pressed leather feel. Let's see how these do with, well, those almost lay down flat as well. That
So
is
the
good
mixed
to
media
know.
one is cotton, you said.
Yes, the mixed media one. The Strathmore mixed media is the 500 series with 100% cotton paper, 90 pound. And that's nice and durable.
You pass that to us.
Yeah, yeah. I'll leave it right there for you.
It won't
So,
be there for very long.
Yeah, I was gonna say we're gonna go off the air, and Amanda and Frida are gonna start duking it out. Goodness only knows who's gonna. Katie, should we start putting some money down now?
It's gonna be like the Hunger Games.
It
Are you
is.
lay claim to one I want?
I know. What?
Are you lay claim to the one
Yes, yes, you did. Yeah, everybody's already worried about. Okay, so there's those. Now let's look at a couple other like little specialty ones. First, I just really want to look at this big giant thing. Okay, so this is called Art Alternatives Very Big Sketchbook. Because they're not lying, and it's heavy. And I wish I would have gotten a scale to see how heavy this thing actually is.
Nothing looks
This
bigger
is-
than my college textbooks.
Sorry.
Oh,
It's heavy.
I know.
It's a coffee. This is a toe breaker. This is like that big pastel box of 525 pastels that I dropped on my toe that time, Katie. It's the Sedelier. This thing is huge. It is 300 sheets, meaning 600 pages, if you're using front and back, of 75-pound paper. So it's not like 30-pound paper. It's not even 50 or 60-pound paper. It's 75-pound paper. The paper is sustainable. It just cracks me up. No, it cracks me up that the 300 sheets are sustainably sourced, because you kind of have to at that point, because you're basically a tree killer, right? For 300 pages, they are, those sheets themselves, just the paper, 12.5 by 10.75 inches. So it's a big piece of paper. Ideal for drawing and sketching in dry media. It's just, and it's not that you probably couldn't do some light washes and things like that, but when you've got something this big and then you start adding like gel medium or doing collaging, or you put washes on it and the paper buckles, suddenly the lid starts doing this, because those pages all get thick and texture and wavy. So really dry media is the safe thing for you. But what better way to make a coffee table book?
I love those for when people do, like, I'm gonna do a portrait a day challenge to keep myself
Yes.
better, or
Yes,
something like that. It's great.
exactly. Frida, question.
Question from the comments. Why spraying for sketchbooks with 100% cotton if someone is not worried about watercolor, selling, or it being archival?
There's no reason to. That's why we're Katie. Oh, okay. I'm sorry. In case you couldn't hear Frida, Frida asked, why would you spring for the Strathmore 500 paper if you're not interested in selling, you're not interested in finished art, you're just wanting to sketch and do things like that? There isn't a well, there could be different reasons if you want. If you're wanting to try cotton paper, it would be a very inexpensive way to do it, number one. And try learning dealing with quality paper that's cotton. Otherwise, there's really not, unless maybe you just want, maybe you want something that's a nice gift for somebody that's been practicing, that they're not a final, like a top grade artist, but they enjoy it, they love it, it's their passion. Okay, if you go and just buy the cheapest shoes, they might be fine, they might hurt your feet. If you go and buy a really cute pair of shoes, how much better do you feel in a cute pair of shoes, Amanda?
So
I know you and shoes. Sometimes it's just nice to have something. There, it's not like a $20 difference in these. So sometimes if you feel like it, spraying for it, trying something new, that's why it's nice and it's there. But it's totally acceptable to just stick with the 300. If you're just practicing, there's nothing wrong with having just the basic paper. Yes, Amanda.
So on YouTube,
Yes.
there's a challenge called the Sketchbook Slam,
Mm-hmm.
where they fill that joker in 30 days,
What?
and it is so much
Oh
fun
my
to
God,
look at.
that would be so fun. 30 days, Amanda said. There's a sketchbook slam on YouTube where people fill this in 30 days.
I don't get it.
I mean, what does that come down to?
I would
It's
cry.
it's 10 pages a day.
Wait, is it
No,
I-
20 back and front.
Yeah.
In front 20
Because
pages.
Oh, so they have to
Sheets
do
of
they have to
paper.
do all 600 sides.
Yeah.
What? They have to, A, those people draw crazy fast. B, they apparently don't have day jobs.
Right.
Because that's just crazy. All right, so that's the big giant Mac Daddy sketchbook. Now, if you just want a little cute journal that's mixed media, but that's cotton, this is it's the ones that Amanda doesn't like the lids on, the covers on, because she doesn't like the brown. But Strathmore makes their visual journal in a 90-pound weight, 100% cotton mixed media, so that you can do some collaging and you can do some other things, because that cotton paper is more durable. It will hold the stuff, it will hold the weight. That'd be the other reason where you could do it, why you would choose cotton over regular paper pulp, because you can put acrylic in there, you can add things, glue things to it. That cotton's much stronger, it's going to hold up. So there's that. The Creative Mark Artist Survival Book. It's this fun little sketchbook. I thought that I took this off, and apparently I didn't, so we're gonna pop this off. That if you know Ophelia for Mixed Media Mondays, this would be the perfect book for her. This is leather. It's soft bound. but it's a soft-bound leather cover. It's got sketch paper. It's got pockets to stick things, ticket stubs, little ephemera, things like that in. Line paper for notes. You haven't seen these,
Never
Amanda?
in my life have I.
What?
I
We're
just
blowing
can't figure
Amanda's
that out.
mind as we how Amanda doesn't know about this.
How do you know
Another
that?
pocket.
We have them everywhere.
We have them everywhere.
Yeah.
The,
Do you not have
Amanda's,
No, I'm gonna.
Amanda's so excited. Amanda, you can have this afterwards.
That's funny because like
Then
this is the one that everybody
Yeah.
around
Pockets.
the office
Yeah,
uses
yeah.
for all their stuff.
Pockets on the inside and outside. You can put a pen, one of your fancy pens here, Amanda, and then, boop, with the wire bound thing that's more durable wire. So that's just a really it's a survival book because you can be sketching, you can take notes, you can design stuff with those dotted things. I really don't know what you do with that. I like those for notes, but it gives you all sorts of things. It's basically your survival book for life. I'm just gonna write your name on it now. So that's the Creative Mark Survival Sketchbook. Now, then we've got, we'll show the Sennelier thing at the end because it's just really cool and it blows my mind. Katie and I were very excited about it. The Reflections Watercolor Journal. It's a new journal that we've come up with that is a little hardbound journal that Reflections has. It's got kind of a cream paper, but it is watercolor paper, 140-pound watercolor paper, acid-free white, cold pressed surface. It's tub sized, so it's ready to accept watercolor media. And it's got an elastic band in it to hold that in your pocketbook, purse, computer, laptop bag, something where it's not going to pop open and get your sketches all scrubby or dirty or whatever. But it takes all sorts of fun, media. We've done, I think, for the page, we've done some video. This is just a little pencil drawing. The other really cool thing about these, we've talked about micro perforation. How about, this is micro perforated. We pulled that out. That was a little Janie sketch. You can see the little perforations there. So if you do something that you really like when you're out and about and you want to keep it, pop it right out. Then there is a little pocket in the back, so you can put all sorts of little doodads in there, ticket stubs or a note or stamps.
Fortunes.
Fortunes. Yeah, anything. So that's a new fun little sketchbook journal that we've got that you can definitely do, have your water media. Then the last one that I will leave you with, and then we'll do questions before the end. Sennelier makes just a very unassuming little thing. It's called the Accordion Urban Sketchbook. It's 4x6. The paper is 230-pound paper in this. It opens up to 40 inches long, 10 panels on it, where you could do a really cool panoramic scene if you wanted. You could just do 10 little things on each of the, front and back on each of the, actually 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8. Oh, it's not open all the way. It's because of 9, 10. It's got them front and back. So how cool is that? And just goes away and puts it back together. Put a rubber band around it, put it in your pocket. Just a fun little cool doodad that you could do a whole bunch of neat stuff with. And pretend it's an accordion if you're Amy and you're bored. So, therein lies the end of our odd coverage of sketchbook styles that are out there. I'm not promoting any particular brand to anybody. Obviously, if you want something that's a coffee table book, this is the only one anybody makes, to my knowledge, that's crazy enough to do that. Thankfully, from sustainably sourced trees. But hopefully this has given you kind of a way to gauge what might be best for you based on kind of the quality of the materials and the styles that you've seen, and knowing what papers are out there. Do we have questions, ladies?
I just have one. So far, I have a customer or a guest that wants one notebook for pastels, but where they can do a watercolor painting underneath that is white paper.
Okay. So is it
Like a watercolor underpainting that they can do
Is
pastels
this
over and it's white paper.
dry pastels, like regular soft pastels?
They-
Or is it
that's
oil
the-
pastels?
They did not tell me. Somebody did
Okay.
want to know if you could use oil
So-
in any of them.
This is the okay, you can use oil in anything. You need to consider this though. You're gonna have to prime the surface. If it's oil paint, prime the surface to protect that paper because the acid from the oil paint will eat down into it otherwise. Then you think about how long you're gonna have to have that open, because even if it's curing and you smush it in against another painting, what is it gonna do? And it's the same with acrylic. Even if you use acrylic in the mixed media stuff, you still need to let that dry and cure long enough before you're squishing them together. That's why most people use matte medium to cover them with, or use a matte medium for any of their adherents, because then it doesn't have as much resin, it's not as sticky. Pastels are going to be a tricky thing because,
Is what he said.
okay, soft, because you're putting something that is basically a pigmented dust in something like this, and then you're closing it up. What is that going to do? Any little bit of movement and friction in that sketchbook is going to rub and smear, unless you really put fixative on it and then you put a piece of glycine in there to protect it. And even then, really, I don't think the sketch, I would far rather, unless it's just for practice and you don't care, I think it would be far better to get a pad, pull out the pieces of paper in the end. If you're wanting to do watercolor under it, use watercolor paper, because you need to have something that size to be able to accept that wet media. Then do your pastel over it, then pull it off the pad, put it in a safe spot with a piece of glassine covering it. So
Do you
yeah,
recommend spraying it with fixative or not?
I would always spray it with fixative.
But even
The
still,
issue that
it's
you're
gonna
going to,
smudge.
no, it's just that it will still, because the fixative is laying on the top of layers, right? So if the top layer gets moved and dusted off, it exposes it to the other layers. And fixative, if you're using low quality pastels that have a lot of fillers in it, is going to change your color. You're going to have color shift. It's only with really good quality soft pastels that you're not going to have issues with that color changing on fixative. I've actually used it on very cheap pastels, used it on top quality pastels, and people are like, oh, fixative ruins pastels. No, not if they're good quality. It actually, to me, enhances the color a little bit. But you can spray it over inexpensive pastels and they go, woo, the color just disappears. Just looks chalky and dusty. So, yeah. So you, long and short of it, I wouldn't recommend sketchbooks for doing pastel work in, unless it's just for practice and you don't care what happens. For oils, you might as well just do the same thing. Do it on sheets, tear it out, you can do it on an oil pad, you can do it on any, like, watercolor surface. Probably for oils, you're gonna want 140 pounds paper or higher. Prime it if it's not already primed. Take it out, set it aside, because you don't want those closed up. Other questions, ladies? Not from Amanda. From Facebook land, Frida?
Not about sketchbooks.
That's fantastic. Okay. Any questions about things we need to address now, or are there things I can go back in and answer later?
I think we're good.
Okay. All right. Well, hopefully this has been a good sketchbook education. You've learned a little something. If you've got other questions, or maybe there's a brand that you're curious about, you can feel free to private message me at my artist's Facebook page, Amy Gardner Dean. It's at JArtorama. Don't do it to my personal page, because that's just for my personal stuff, for my friends, for my dogs, for my kids. So, but if you send it, if it's something where you want to know quickly because you're wanting to make a decision with buying a sketchbook, send it to my artist page. I'm good about returning those and getting back to you. Otherwise, if it's something that's not time sensitive, put it here in the comments. I go through the comments every 4 episodes or so. I'll go and catch back up on everything, and I will answer you there, and be happy to answer any questions you have about any of the brands of sketchbooks that we carry as well. So, that being said, next week, Artist Self-Improvement Series, We are going to the Little Art Gallery in Raleigh. It is the oldest art gallery in Raleigh. It's one of the oldest art galleries in our area.
In North Carolina.
In North Carolina, and they've been open for, what is it now? It's 3 generations of owners. It's been open that long.
I want to say it's like 68 because I think it's about as old as Jerry's.
Yeah,
For
it's,
some reason.
they've been,
The current owner's mother.
had opened it. Been around for forever. Galleries come and galleries go, and these ladies have not only made a stay of it, they have been wildly successful. They have people in there all the time. Huh?
1968.
1968. It's been around since. It's just a fantastic place. When you go in there, just art, just kind of, it's just a lovely place to go in and shop and look. The color, the artists that they pick are top quality. Just a really nice venue. And we're going to talk to Brennan Day, who is the artist and the client liaison at the Little Art Gallery. And he's going to talk to us about what are galleries looking for? What types of things do you need to work on and be prepared for when you start approaching galleries with your work, wanting to try to get someone to carry you? So he will be available for all the questions you can come up with. If there's things you've been thinking about and you've been wondering about, make sure you take notes between now and then so you can have those questions to fire at him. He's got a laundry list of things to go over, good things, the things they want to see, the things that you definitely don't want to do, and he will really help us all out. He is just a wonderful, hilarious gentleman, and he's actually an artist himself in his own right. So it will be an awesome episode. So join us then. And I think that's it. We'll see you next week. Have a good evening and a good week.